Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the royals and about politics. We end with our weekly feature, The Comments of the Week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 177. Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra, I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
So we were off for like 3 weeks. We meant to only take 2 weeks off around like 4th of July, and because there wasn't a lot happening. We record Thursday afternoons, like we've done that forever. And last week on Thursday night, Prince Harry was supposed to be at the ESPYs, and he was. He got the Pat Tillman Award. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then Wimbledon was that weekend, and that was Kate's big second thing that she was doing. And
on last Thursday, we didn't know if Kate was going to come, but I kind of suspected that she was going to. I think everyone did, so
we weren't sure what to talk about. And then all that stuff happened this week. I mean, we wouldn't have missed it because it happened this week, but
it just would have sounded quaint.
Yeah. I mean, every week's news sounds quaint now with everything that's going on. So it rained here today. Like, this was so exciting to me because it's been like 99 or 100 degrees for days. And I'm not being hyperbolic. It's been super hot. And it rained here today, and now it's like 80.
There's a heat wave everywhere on the East Coast and Midwest.
Like, you cannot go out in the afternoons. You just have to stay in. I felt like, I was trapped in the house. I mean, it's not that bad. I'm not complaining, but it was crazy.
Yeah, we've had drought conditions here. I'm sure you have too, but we needed the rain.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to rain more in the coming week. So I'm happy about that. But it is crazy humid out.
I'm glad that the temperature broke. Yeah, it is real humid, but it's not as hot and humid as it was. So that's way better. It's like 20 degrees less than it has been.
Yeah. And they said that the heat wave is why Biden probably got COVID too, because everyone's inside.
I've been wearing a mask. Like, I'm paranoid. I always get it from like people close to me and not going out anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But
I still have never gotten COVID, at least not that I know. I've never tested positive for anything.
I've had it 2 or 3 times, and every time I get it, you're sick for like a month. The worst part's over in a week, but then you're really tired for several weeks and you don't feel like working out. So I don't want to get it again.
Yeah, I've had like really heavy colds like that where it feels like it takes forever to just shake off the last part of it.
Yeah, if you had that in the last 4 years, that's COVID.
Well, I haven't in the past
You're
4
lucky.
years. For some reason, I've just been not sick.
You're lucky.
For several years now. Not even like seasonal allergies.
Bragging.
I know, it's weird. I think it's because I've been walking outside so much since the pandemic.
Oh yeah, you get fresh air.
Yeah, all the fresh air, and like my seasonal allergies are just kind of like, we don't know what to do, so we're not going to do anything.
Nice. So over the break, I saw the movie Thelma with June Squibb and Richard Roundtree, rest in peace, twice in the movie theater. It was so good the first time I saw it. I was telling everybody about it. And my friend's like, well, I'm going to get some people together to see it then. And I was like, okay, invite me. And she's like, okay. So I went to see it again. And I just loved it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time now. I mean, I've only seen it twice, and I bought it. It comes out video on demand tomorrow. And I recommend everyone see this movie. The writing is so good. It's both hilarious and kind of heartbreaking and poignant, and just the performances, everything. It's just amazing. It's a senior caper movie, basically, but it's hard to do it justice.
I read the plot. I also read the plot for that Long Legs because I wanted to see if I could handle watching it.
No.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I don't think I can handle it because even the trailer really freaked me out.
I like horror movies. I'm not going to see Long Legs. But yeah, I really recommend everyone sees Thelma. It's just such a great movie. I can't say enough good things about it.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to watch it whenever you buy it or rent it.
I bought it. It's coming out tomorrow, so watch it whenever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will watch it this weekend then.
Nice. Thank you. Did you see anything good? You've been watching Wimbledon?
Yeah, I was watching Wimbledon, and I really only, fangirl hard for one player. Daniil Medvedev is my favorite. And like whenever he like crashes out of a tournament, I kind of like vaguely watch tennis then.
Aw.
Like I'll watch the rest of the tournament. I have like smaller faves that I like. I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. I'm glad they're doing well. But like Daniil made a really deep run in Wimbledon. He made it to the semifinals. And so like that was really exciting for me. I love when he makes a deep run at one of the slams.
Nice.
He beat the number one player in the world too.
Deep run at one of the slams. What does that mean? Oh, that means he gets far.
So
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
he gets far. Like a slam is a fortnight. It's 2 weeks and it's 7 rounds.
Okay.
So the 7th round is the final. And so Daniil made it to the 6th round. He beat the number one player, Yannick Sinner, in the quarterfinals. And then he had to play Carlos Alcaraz, who was playing like crazy well again on grass. And so Carlos beat him in the semifinal.
Okay. Nice. Well, I'm sorry that he lost, but...
Yeah, but like Daniil played pretty well against Carlos, and he like actually won a set, and then Carlos absolutely beat that dog snot out of Novak Djokovic in the final.
Oh, Djokovic got all the way to the final.
Djokovic didn't know what the fuck he was doing. It was crazy. I enjoyed the women's part of the tournament. Like there are some cool players who made it far.
Nice. I've been watching trash on YouTube and on Netflix lately, other than that movie.
Oh, well, I can say that, I guess. The Kendrick Drake beef got me really into watching YouTube reactors.
Oh, okay.
I've learned more about the beef and like the nuances of the beef from watching some of the YouTube reactor videos.
Nice.
And like I really like some of the guys.
Send me a couple.
The guys are really
I'll
funny.
Link them. Put them in the
Okay,
post for this podcast.
There's one named MANIACITV, and I love his reactions. He's so funny.
Neat. All right, let's talk about the Royals. So the last time we talked, Kate had made her return after 6 months at Trooping the Color. Like as we were previewing, I'm being so formal. She was at Wimbledon at the men's final. She did not go to the women's final. And before that, it was non-committal from their side as to whether she would go. And now we're hearing that she's going to be on vacation for the summer for several months probably, which is what she's been doing for her summers. And so maybe we'll see her or she'll do virtual events or...
No, she never does that in the summer.
I don't know.
Like, if this is a normal summer for her, then we're not going to see her until September or October. That's how it's been for years now.
And we just got that story about how she doesn't live by the calendar anymore. And that was like the quote from it. Because I was trying to find a phrase from that article that would fit. I do the hot posts and then the little slideshow that comes up on the site. And I try to summarize the titles because they can't be the same length that you have them or that we have them. Uh-huh. And I was like, okay, well, this is good. She doesn't live by the calendar. You titled it Wimbledon Gave Her Sustenance or something. But it's more like, yeah, she's not...
Yeah, and so I was wrong about one thing about Kate. Everyone was kind of bitching at her because she didn't make any effort to go to the women's final. And in fact, she announced that she would go to the men's final like an hour before the women's final, which is kind of rude, really.
Just wait.
The focus should have been on the women's final, not on whether or not Kate will appear.
Yes.
And like women's finals, women's matches, they're shorter. They're best of 3 sets and men play best of 5 sets. So men's matches are usually longer.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, so if she's feeling really poorly, wouldn't she choose to go to the shorter match just in general? Then it turns out like the women's final was actually pretty long. It was like 2 hours, 20 minutes. And same with the men's match. It was like the exact same length.
Oh, so it just was a wash as to which one would have been longer.
Uh-huh. But last year's men's final was like 5 hours long. And like she knew that coming in, so that she could be sitting there for 5 hours or longer.
So she picked the one that, maybe she wanted to see the men more.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely it. She just likes men's tennis more than women's tennis.
Yeah.
Which sucks because the women's final was really good.
So, yeah, we're getting a lot of stories now about, it's the typical story that we get about Kate, which is like, oh, she did so great,
Yeah, she's a big girl now.
Yeah.
The bar is in hell for everything that Kate does.
And
she's
William,
so
to be fair.
infantilized.
And William, you know.
And William, of course. But like with Kate, it's everything is just, oh, she has to be praised for like doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And maybe she's sick or maybe she's better now, but we don't know because there's been no transparency around her illness apart from that one weird video on the bench.
Yeah, and you keep saying that, like, why doesn't she, you know, do a Zoom with, like, a cancer center or cancer patients? I genuinely think that it doesn't occur to Kensington Palace that they should set that up for her. And, like, she just doesn't want to talk about it. And I don't think she's going to.
Charles went and met with cancer patients and talked to them about what a shock it was when you're diagnosed with cancer. And, you know, he went to the center and talked to people.
Yeah, and, like, that was a really good moment for Charles, honestly. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Charles, but, like, he's handled parts of his illness and how he discloses certain things. Like, he's handled that very well, and he's shown an enormous amount of compassion and empathy.
And I mean, it doesn't even have to be cancer patients. She could visit with elderly people. I don't see a lot of effort, but
I've always said that about Kate, though. I've always said that she should do more with seniors.
She does great
because
with seniors.
They think she's cute and like her little girl personality really works well with seniors.
Yeah, something's going on beyond this where she's not working as much, and she negotiated something about that, but. So we talked about this in our last episode, 176, is the Middletons are also back. Like right after Kate came back, they popped up. And they were at Royal Ascot, as we talked about, but they're also at Wimbledon this year. And in one of their appearances, not in both, Carol and Michael were in the Royal Box.
Yeah, that was a big deal. The fact that they were at the Royal Box at Wimbledon and they were at the Royal Box at Ascot, too. Royal Box is by invitation only. At Wimbledon, at least. I don't know about Ascot, but at Wimbledon, it's invitation only. You have to be invited by the club. And in recent years, for years and years, the Middletons have not been welcome in the Royal Box. They have to get tickets the other way.
Ooh.
There was one time when Kate was sitting in the Royal Box and she waved to her mother in the cheap seats.
Cheap is highly relative, but yeah.
Yeah, true, but...
So something's going on with that.
Yeah, and I think it's connected. I do. I think that the weirdness around Kate and like all of that is connected to the reappearance and the rebranding of the Middletons.
Because the press trashed those people. And it seemed like they really deserved it, too, given how they stiffed their creditors.
Yeah, they absolutely deserved it. They screwed over so many people.
Yeah, that's so shady.
I mean, I think it rises to a level of fraud. Like, that's how bad their financial situation was.
Yeah.
That they were screwing over so many local vendors. And not a whisper of it this year.
No, everything's forgiven.
Not when they went to Ascot, not when they went to Wimbledon. No one will say anything about it. And I feel like that's royal endorsed.
Oh, definitely. They called off
whatever
the
Middletons,
you know?
Yeah, whatever the Middletons did, they had leverage and they applied that leverage to help themselves to get through this bad period.
And they did it to themselves too, but
yeah.
So the big story the past couple weeks was that Prince Harry received the Pat Tillman Award at the ESPYs, and I could not believe the way the British press was freaking out about that ahead of time. You would think that they would shut the fuck up about it because Harry made the Invictus Games. He did 2 tours in Afghanistan. Like, his military record is unimpeachable, and yet they keep trying to trash him on this. There were so many articles about it. I couldn't believe it.
The Pat McAfee situation, because he's an ESPN guy, and he's a fucking moron. Oh, my God. This guy is dumb as a fucking rock.
He looks it.
I was actually listening to him at the gym. He was actually still talking about how no one should get vaccines. That was this week.
For real?
For real. He was saying on air on ESPN that people should still avoid getting vaccines.
At least a lot of those people took themselves out of the gene pool. And I know that sounds really cruel, but they did.
Well, so if it had just been him, I would have said, like, you know, the British press is making a mountain out of a molehill. But the fact that Mary Tillman made that statement exclusively to the male. So Mary Tillman is Pat Tillman's mother.
Yes.
And she's not part of the Pat Tillman Foundation. The Pat Tillman Foundation is run by Pat Tillman's widow and I think his brother.
Okay.
And the Pat Tillman Foundation, they're the ones that work with ESPN to find the recipients of the Pat Tillman Award for Service. So obviously, Harry had the endorsement of Pat Tillman's widow and Pat Tillman's brother and like the larger Tillman Foundation organization. And for Mary Tillman to go to the Daily Mail, and we don't know if they contacted her and she gave that quote to them blind. We don't know if anything was explained to her about like who Harry is. And like calling him divisive, I don't know. It plucked my antenna a little bit because I do feel like they put words into her mouth.
Well, that's a Fox News talking point too. So if she's MAGA and she listens to that garbage, she might just be parroting what she's heard on Fox News. But yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, the Mary Tillman comments were what opened the floodgates. And the British media just hammered and hammered and hammered. And they were like throwing tantrum after tantrum. They wouldn't acknowledge that they were wrong once the ESPYs were over. Once Harry made that extremely gracious speech, once he even like spoke to Mary Tillman on stage, like that almost made me cry. He showed her so much grace. Like I hope she feels guilty as hell because she came off very poorly.
She did, but if she's going to say that and not take it back, then it's doubtful. Harry was really triumphant at the ESPYs.
Well, maybe not triumphant, but it was a good night for him.
Yeah, I guess triumphant means it's prideful, and he wasn't prideful.
No, he put it all on Invictus and all on veterans. That's his whole deal, and I think that's why he even accepted the award, is because he knew that he could put all of that attention on Invictus. And, I loved the fact that ESPN made a special package about the Invictus Games with Will Arnett doing the narration. Like, that was beautiful.
Yeah, it was great. There were new veterans that we hadn't met yet in the series Heart of Invictus, talking about what it meant to them and how it impacted their families so positively and gave them meaning.
And that exposure was amazing. And to see that night and like in the day after, like, veterans online saying, I didn't know that Harry did this, or I'd heard about this but I'd never seen it like presented in this way, or like, of course the Invictus Games, that's Harry, okay.
Yeah. And then there was like a weak sauce move by the British tabloids after that to say that the Sussexes are in their flop era and that they're disliked in America, and we were not looking at the same thing. They did great at the ESPYs, and Harry is beloved.
Yeah, that flop era stuff, that came from The Guardian. It was just weird.
Shady.
I mean, I get that the British press wants to convince their own domestic readers that the Sussexes aren't doing well in America. That's what the domestic audience wants to hear, or that's what everyone thinks they want to hear. But at some point, just acknowledge the reality. And they can't do that.
Harry is the modernization of the royal family, and they bullied him out. We just saw Charles and Camilla at the opening of Parliament get met with tons of protests. They looked so old and out of touch and colonial, like dripping with stolen jewels, as you wrote, which was accurate. And Charles is like bitching at the little boys trying to move his giant robe around. And why are they opening Parliament? Their figurehead status is ridiculous and mocked and antiquated. And meanwhile, Harry's creating the Invictus Games and just being, an empathetic modern example of the royal family. He's not part of them anymore. They don't want that. They can't stand that.
Yeah. But they can't stand any part of it.
Yeah.
They can't stand that he's successful away from them. They can't stand the fact that they don't have a say in his life anymore. And they can't impose themselves on his life anymore.
Yeah.
They try. God knows they try to impose themselves on him.
He's so out of there. And we saw William at the Euro finals, which is the football match. And he was, getting into it, which no shame. If you're like getting into a sports game, fine. But that's not very royal, is it? And they tried to spin it like, Britain loves how animated he is. No, nobody gives a shit about that guy. They think he looks like a tool.
Yeah, because he does look like a tool.
Yeah.
I get enthusiasm. Like, it's fine to, like, cheer and, like, stand up and lift your fists and say, like, yeah, we did that. He looked like a hooligan. He looked like a violent hooligan. That's what they call them in England, like soccer or football hooligans.
Hooligan, okay. So speaking of lifting his fist, let's talk about Donald Trump and politics. So
this whole mess. This whole baby-fisted mess.
As you guys know, Donald Trump was either grazed by a bullet that hit his ear or like some glass dislodged by the bullet hit his ear at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania last weekend. And the shooter was a 20-year-old registered Republican. It was a lone shooter, and he was killed at the scene. And one man in the crowd, a firefighter, was shot and killed, and 2 others were hurt. Right after that happened, Trump stood up. He was asking his security guys for his shoes or something. And he lifted his arm in a fist to the crowd and said, "Fight, fight, fight." And everyone's like, why is he doing that? And I heard so many security experts on Twitter, like it was basically videos from TikTok, but they were saying, like, you're never supposed to let a high profile target do that, especially before the shooter is secure. You're supposed to shield them.
Right. The shooting had just happened, just seconds beforehand. They were trying to move him off the stage, and this dumb fuck lifts his fist and sticks his big fat orange head out. It's not shielded whatsoever. They don't know if there's a second shooter. They aren't even sure if the first shooter has been contained or killed or whatever.
Then there were all these eyewitnesses on the news who said that they had seen the shooter several minutes before it happened, and they told security about it. And everyone was pointing this guy out. They could see him. It's just very sketch.
Yeah, the New York Times did a breakdown of all of the security failures that happened with this one guy before the shooting. Like, how many people identified him as a threat. It was like a long fucking list. Regular civilians that, like, hey, that guy is weird. He's acting weird. Why is that guy climbing on a roof? Regular people were saying that the local law enforcement, they're like, hey, we should pass that guy's photo around. Make sure we keep an eye on him. And, like, they still let him climb up on a roof with a gun. Jesus fucking Christ. I mean,
the whole deal with Trump poking his stupid head out and lifting his arm up, you could say, okay, if you're Trump's Secret Service, if you're anyone who does anything for Trump, are you going to tell that fucking doofus no? No one's going to tell that guy no, because he'll fire you, or you were reminding me that he attacked a Secret Service agent on January 6th, and he lunged at him.
Yeah, and that was a big thing with Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony before Congress, because we didn't know that before, that Trump wanted to be driven to the Capitol, or to, where his people were, the insurrectionists that he was inciting. He wanted to be driven to them to, like, lead them into the Capitol or something, or to, like, be there in person to incite them once more. And when the Secret Service wouldn't let him, he physically attacked a Secret Service agent.
So they're going to let him do stupid things like stick his head out after he gets shot. They're like, okay, you want to do that. So that to me is like, okay, maybe it wasn't a conspiracy. Maybe it's just complete incompetence and complacency around this horrible person. I don't know.
Well, and have you been following all this stuff about why Trump has been doing so many open air rallies
no,
and, like,
why is
random fields and stuff? It's because his campaign is broke ass. Like,
for real. That's okay.
Like, there are all of these, arenas and whatever from, like, the 2020 race who still haven't been paid. And he's, like, screwed over all of these people for, like, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And, like, they won't let him come back and, like, hold his stupid Nazi rallies there. So he's having to, like, rent out random fields and, like, farms and shit.
Four Seasons Landscaping. I didn't know that. You remember when all those people got left out in the freezing cold? Like, was it in Wisconsin or something? Where
that was
Alaska. There were no buses in the middle of the night, and they were stranded and like getting hypothermia.
That was in 2020. I remember that. And that was during the pandemic too.
Oh my God. So I can't believe this timeline is still happening. So Trump Oh my God. Trump picked his vice. Hi, I'm recording this later. Trump left people stranded at a rally in Omaha, Nebraska in October 2020 in the cold and dark. They were left to walk miles back to their cars, and elderly people ended up in the hospital. Now back to my talk with Chandra. Trump picked his vice president. It's that hillbilly elegy author, the freshman senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance. Now, I didn't know a lot about him. I was reading up on him a little bit. He's really tight with that billionaire Peter Thiel. And he used to work for Thiel at a venture capitalist firm. And then Thiel gave him seed money for his own venture capitalist firm. So the reason why Trump picked this tool might just be that he's got money and donors.
Yeah, because Trump is broke ass and he owes E. Jean Carroll so much, like millions of dollars. Yeah, he owes the state of New York all this money. His lawyer bills are through the fucking roof. He's broke as hell and he needs Peter Thiel's money. He needs Elon Musk's money. I think Elon Musk is, robbing Peter to pay Paul. But anyway.
He must be. He's angling for some kind of advisory position I was reading today.
But Trump hates Elon. And that's funny, too. Anyway. Yeah, J.D. Vance is a piece of shit. And I didn't know, I've just found out this week that he's married to an Indian American woman. And
she's apparently lawyer.
Yeah, a lawyer. And she's like a litigator. Apparently, MAGA world did not know that he was married to an Indian American woman. I wonder if Trump knew. I bet Trump didn't ask. And I bet Trump people didn't ask. No, I can't imagine that they would let him be vice president with an Indian American wife because MAGA world is not happy and they are letting their racism fly freely. Yeah.
Well, they have been doing that for a while too. And like their names, the kids' names, like one kid is named Vivek and they have, Indian names. Nice. I hope the family's being protected. I hope the kids are being protected.
Yeah, I do too. The wife seems like she's pretty MAGA too.
Yeah, she clerked for Kavanaugh or something.
Yeah.
Gross. Yes. So
and
creepy.
They give me similar vibes. J.D. Vance and Kavanaugh, they both have that kind of frat boy date rape face.
Yeah, they do. I hate to say it, but it's accurate. I will say it. I just don't want to be recorded when I say it.
I'm just saying it's a vibe. I'm not saying that that's who they actually are.
Yeah, it is a vibe. So while this is going on, we just heard that Biden has COVID for the third time.
Is it the third time?
Yeah. I mean, I read it somewhere. It's the third time. If I'm wrong, I'll just cut it. So a couple weeks ago, we had the debate, and Biden didn't do that well. And he said he'd been sick, which is totally understandable. But the press just harped on it instead of focusing on Trump lying, on the fact that he's a convicted felon, that he tried to overthrow the government. It's all Biden, isn't coming back with this snappy comebacks. It just is so crappy and superficial. And then there's some calls, particularly from George Clooney and some other assholes, that we should replace Biden. And what are we going to do? How's that going to work out for us?
Yeah, it doesn't work out at every level. The amount of bedwetting, the amount of lack of strategic thinking, and the undercover racism of it all. Because I feel that concerns about Biden's age are baked into his support already. That's why he chose Kamala Harris. A much younger woman, a woman of Indian and I think Jamaican descent. She's the heiress apparent. She is his political legacy. If your argument is that Biden needs to step down, you better be fully ready to support President-elect Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
And that's the big tell. None of them are saying that. That's not the second sentence. It's Biden needs to step down, and then they don't say shit about Kamala Harris, or they say, oh, she could run too.
Yeah. We've heard that Biden's going to make changes to the Supreme Court, but it's unclear what he's going to do. At the very least,
I want him to throw some of those fuckers in jail. I don't care.
These judges should at least be recusing themselves from some of these rulings where they have political interests.
I mean, we're so far past, like, oh, they should recuse themselves. No, Clarence Thomas should be in jail.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, he didn't even recuse himself, so.
I mean, I wanted this plan for the Supreme Court to be something that President Biden would run on. He should have announced this months ago.
I think he should widen it. He should put more people on it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And now that presidents have immunity, he should do a bunch of shit like that, you know?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Clarence Thomas should be in jail.
Okay, I'm with you. All right, let's move on to the comments of the week.
Just arrest him and, like, let's figure it out later because Biden has immunity.
Good.
All right, so my comment of the week is from one of the Angelina Jolie stories this week because there have been several. There was one story where there was a lot of back and forth in the comments. And
because of bots.
Huh?
Because of bots.
Well, no, there were some like old school like Angelina Jolie fans in there really defending her honor. And I was so happy about it, that people have actually been paying attention for the past 8 years of like what Brad Pitt has done to her and how he's still using the legal system to like financially abuse her and like try to punish her for leaving.
Yes.
So commenter Oh Hey was responding to one of those people like, Angelina needs to do this and this. She needs to stop bothering Brad. And Oh Hey wrote, but Angelina literally can't walk away even though she's been trying to. He sued her many times. She legally has to respond or have the judgment automatically go against her if she doesn't participate and present a case. I want people to understand that. Like, Oh Hey keeps on going, but like she says, someone is drawing this out all right. It's extremely clear who it is. It's not both sides.
Yeah. I just want to mention that Brad Pitt hired the same firm as Johnny Depp. And we're seeing very similar patterns in the comments on stories about Brad Pitt.
Online as well, like on Twitter.
On Twitter and in our stories about him. Someone is paying for this, and it's annoying.
They've been activated this week, too. It's been kind of quiet in Brangelina world for a few months. People are paying attention, but there's not like this big comment push on those stories. And then all of a sudden, it heated up this week.
It's the same pattern that we see with the royal stories. Like there'll be a big thing that happened and they'll send out their little bots or whoever does it for them to a certain story. It won't be consistent. It'll just be like one or two stories at a certain time. And usually it's off times. That's what we saw around when Kate came back.
Oh yeah, with the video.
Yeah, with the video and the cancer announcement.
With the video, there was a real and very obvious push to hem in a narrative.
How dare you? She has cancer. That was what it boiled down to.
And how dare you not know that she has cancer?
Even though we just announced it. Yeah. Even though it's been very vague about what is happening with her. Anyway, I didn't want to go on that huge tangent. But when the bots are activated, it's very clear to us and it's annoying. I'm trying to work on some kind of captcha that's going to help catch them.
We're able to catch a lot of it too, I think. And sometimes I like to see what happens when a bot goes through or like someone with like very obvious talking points goes through to see if the commenters have any clapback for that or if they call it out.
They do.
Yeah.
They do call it out. I wish they would just comment troll so we could get rid of it and there's not 50 comments under one troll. But whatever.
Well, sometimes it leads to some really interesting conversations too. And like that's what I think was happening in the Angelina Jolie story, the one
we cleaned
story.
Up a lot of that though.
It led to some really great points and really great conversations.
All right, that's fair. All right, my comment of the week is on Kismet's post about this nutritionist said that restaurants serve you the bread or the tortilla chips before the meal so it spikes your insulin and you eat more. And there's like some people agree with that. Some people say no, it makes you more full. But my comment is from Bumblebee, And they said, sounds more like restaurants give people chips or bread so they're happy and occupied while waiting for the meal. And then somebody else commented that she had worked as a waitress, and I never noticed this. She said that they always were supposed to give the food after, like the little chips after they ordered the dinner, so that while they're waiting, they're not getting annoyed at how long the food's taking or whatever.
Well, that doesn't happen everywhere. Sometimes you just get your bread automatically when you sit down.
Yeah, that's true. It also made me want Olive Garden because we were talking about Olive Garden.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about that Texas Roadhouse. God, I love their rolls.
Oh, my son's girlfriend loves Texas Roadhouse. It's her favorite place to eat.
Their rolls are amazing.
Oh, nice.
Like Olive Garden's breadsticks are only good for 5 minutes when they're really warm and fresh out of the oven.
And then they get stale.
Yeah, then they get really gummy and kind of gross.
I like the biscuits at Red Lobster. The Cheddar Bay biscuits at Red Lobster are good.
No, I don't fuck with that. I don't. I know a lot of people do though. I'm not judging.
You don't like Red Lobster?
I don't like cheddar.
Or you just don't like the
I don't
biscuits?
like cheddar biscuits.
Oh, you're not into cheese.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. I can't eat cheese anymore either.
And once you stop eating cheese, don't you realize how much cheese is on everything?
Yeah, they put cheese in everything. Yeah.
I once ordered what was supposed to be homemade chicken noodle soup at a restaurant. They put a fuckload of cheese in it.
Are you fucking kidding me? No, you don't put cheese in chicken soup. That's ridiculous.
Isn't it?
I get some Parmesan. Parmesan, I understand, on top. But not.
No, they just dumped a bunch of cheese in chicken noodle soup.
That's gross. No.
Isn't it? And I sent it back. I was like, can I please have another cup without the cheese? And they're like, oh, you want more? And I was like, no cheese.
I want more cheese in this chicken soup. That's so gross. All right. Well, thanks for listening, bitches.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.